The VA mails a second check on top of your rating. $139.87 a month, tax-free, for a loss most veterans never file for. Nobody volunteers it. Today we say the 3 letters out loud, and hold on to this one because it's bigger. The exact same loss that triggers that monthly check can unlock a one-time payment north of $27,000. There's a timing trap that makes veterans hand it right back, so before we're done, we'll get someone who lives this work on the line for it.
This is Erica, and that number stops people cold because they have never heard it. Those 3 letters are SMC, Special Monthly Compensation. It is not a rating and it is not a percentage. It is a separate payment the VA adds because you lost something, and here's the ruling most people get backwards from the start.
Look at what that word loss is doing, though. I'm Isabella, and by the end of it you'll see the whole episode turns on it. The check isn't triggered by how bad your leg is on a scale. It's triggered by whether you can use it at all.
Careful with that word triggered though, because this is where the money hides. Kai here. Most veterans stare at their rating percentage and stop reading. The loss column pays separately, and it pays whether you're at 40% or 100.
Yeah, and last time we said the best benefits aren't always a rating number on a letter. Today's is exactly that kind, chapter and verse. So here is what nobody framed for you, and it's the whole reason this money sits unclaimed.
One loss can pay more than once. A veteran with the right combination of losses can hold that K award stacked up to 3 separate times. That's not a loophole. It's written into the rate table, and almost nobody applies for the second and third.
And the chat just pushed up the exact question I hear on every one of these. Someone wrote, "I still have my foot, but it barely works. Is there extra VA money for that? Or only for amputations?" Short answer, so the story goes, is yes, and that yes is the whole video.
Everything on today's topic, plus the free tools and claim guides, lives at va.professorerica.com. Now, everything so far just keeps the rating you already earned. The next few minutes are where the real money either lands in your account or sits on the table for good.
Okay, I have to say it. Almost every veteran in the stories that reach us did this one thing the same wrong way. They read the rating letter, saw a percentage, and assumed that percentage was the whole payment. Take the number off the page for a second and look underneath it.
The way the VA calculates, forget the formula for a second. Start with the loss. Special monthly compensation is a separate law, 38 U.S.C. 1114, and it says the VA owes you extra money for specific losses on top of whatever your rating already pays. That's the part the letter never spells out, chapter and verse.
The base rung is SMC-K. That's the entry level, the one you reach first. It pays for loss, or loss of use, of one hand, one foot, or a creative organ. And here's the ruling that matters. Loss of use counts every bit as much as losing the limb.
Hand, foot, or creative organ. Each one is its own separate trigger. So run the math on that for a second. A veteran with 2 qualifying losses isn't picking one. Both count.
You know the case that keeps showing up in our comments? Let me tell it, because it's the misconception in one shape.
The intent to file one? Go.
A veteran in our comments retired 40-something years of a bad foot after service, rated for years. Never once heard the letters SMC. He files, and someone tells him to send in the 995 to fix it. Wrong form. File the 526, wait, no, I had that backwards for a second. The 526 EZ is the initial claim. The 995 is the supplemental, for after a decision. He needed the 526 EZ.
So the whole delay was a form number. That's brutal.
Right, and once he understood the trigger, the claim was clean. Because the test isn't whether the limb is gone. It's whether what's left is...
Hold on. Usable means not lost. Full stop, right?
What's left is function. And full stop is exactly the trap. The RE asks one question. Would an amputation and a prosthesis serve you just as well? If yes, the leg is legally lost, still attached, and all.
Okay, I had that backwards.
And this one's been sitting in the comments all week, worth stopping on. If loss of use rates the same as an amputation, does it pay the same SMC too, or is loss of use somehow worth less?
Okay, 2 ways to answer that, and the honest one fixes the question first. The real question isn't loss of use versus amputation. The VA already treats them the same for pay. Both things are true at once. The leg is attached, and the money is identical. So think of the rating as base pay, and SMC as a separate hazard pay line the VA adds on top. Hold that image because there's a version where that hazard line pays 3 times over. That's coming up.
Which leaves one question hanging over this whole claim. If loss of use pays like an amputation, then what exactly does an actual amputation rate at, and where does the arm get graded highest? Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it.
The arm grades highest right up at the shoulder, and it climbs by exactly how much bone is gone. That's the schedule in 38 CFR 471A. The higher the amputation, the higher the percentage. Same limb, different numbers, all the way up the arm.
And I collect these code maps the way I collect museum gift shop postcards, so let me lay the arm out in order. It reads clean once you see it as a ladder of levels, not a random pile of numbers.
Start at the top. Disarticulation, code 5120, the whole arm off at the shoulder joint. That rates 90% whether it's your dominant arm or not.
Now the one people ask about by name. Above the insertion of the deltoid, code 5121. 90% for the major arm, 80% for the minor. The deltoid is the shoulder muscle. Cut above where it attaches and you lose the leverage, so the rating stays high.
Drop just below that insertion, code 5122, and it steps down. 80% major, 70% minor. It's the same limb, 1 notch lower, 1 notch less pay. The bone length you keep is the whole difference.
So the story goes exactly the way the anatomy does. Higher loss, higher number. And the major arm, your dominant side, always rates a rung above the minor. By the end of it, the code alone tells a rater the level without another word.
One flag though, and it's the whole reason we're here. That 90%? It is not your SMC, it's the scheduler grade, and the code for the shoulder level cut is the one the VA quietly files under
things we'll never mention unless you ask.
Right, filed and forgotten. So the scheduler 90 pays the 90. The loss underneath it pays the SMC separately, and that's the split nobody draws for you.
And Kai's right to separate them, I'll give him that plainly. I usually lead with the rating table, but the split he just drew is the more useful way in. The percentage and the SMC are 2 different envelopes.
So burn one number in before we move. 90% for that shoulder level arm. And on top of it, $139.87 every single month that the 90% never mentioned. K, you pulled the actual rate table for this. When the VA says a veteran can hold that K award more than once, how many times are we really talking, and what has to be true for it?
Up to 3. 1 to 3K awards stacked, each one its own separate loss. The rate table lists it plainly. And this is the hazard pay line from earlier finally earning its keep, 3 envelopes instead of 1.
Before you total it, let the room guess. A veteran with several qualifying losses, how many of these K awards do you figure most people actually claim? K, lowball it for us.
Honestly, most claim 2 if they're paying attention, maybe 2.
It's usually 1, just the first. Most veterans never file for the second or third loss at all because nobody told them the award repeats. That's the money left behind, and it repeats at $139.87 a rung.
Run the picture through one person. Ray, a 60-year-old retired Army Staff Sergeant, below-knee loss of use of 1 foot, and a second separate qualifying loss. Rated 40% on the schedule, 2K awards he qualified for. He'd been claiming 0.
So run the math on Ray. 139.87 times 2 awards. That's the worth it number per month. Call it $280, $279.74 every month on top of his 40%. That's the second envelope he was leaving sealed.
And that's the safest route for someone like Ray. I mean, safest if the loss of use is documented in the file. Both things are true. The money is real, and it only pays if the record shows the function is actually gone. So the move is to ask the VA to review every qualifying loss, not just the loudest one.
And there's one more level above all this stacking, because when the losses get severe enough, you stop adding Ks and you jump to a whole different...
Stop right there. That's my lane. Let me run the jump.
It's yours.
Lose the use of both feet, and you don't stack 2 Ks anymore. You climb to SMC-L, a different rung entirely, and the monthly number stops looking like a bonus and starts looking like a second income. That's the ladder, not the tip jar.
Ladder, good word for it. And here's the thing about climbing it. At certain rungs, other benefits start to ride along for free. That phrase, ride along, is where the next few minutes live.
$1,053.19. That's a separate annual check, and it has nothing to do with your rating. It rides along the moment a service-connected prosthesis or brace starts wearing out your clothes.
That's the annual clothing allowance, under 38 CFR 3810. The logic is almost tender when you see it. A prosthetic leg, a rigid brace, they grind through trousers and sleeves. So the VA pays you back for the clothing the appliance destroys. Here's the ruling. If the device wears the fabric, you're owed it.
And it's not the only thing riding along, so let me lay the whole shelf out at once. Loss, or loss of use, of a hand or a foot opens a second door entirely, the adaptive equipment grant. That's separate money, on its own separate form, to modify a vehicle, hand controls, a lift, a left foot accelerator. Unlike a one-time payment, the adaptive grant can be paid more than once across your life as vehicles change. And it even reaches conditions the monthly check does not, like ankylosis, a frozen knee or hip. So the worth it number here isn't one benefit. It's a monthly check, an annual check, and a repeatable equipment grant, all keyed off the exact same loss. Make it real though, or it stays abstract. Take Ray again, our 60-year-old with the below-knee loss of use. In 1 year, what does he actually collect off all this?
The clothing allowance, once, if his prosthesis wears his clothes. Roughly $1,000 for the year.
Roughly $1,000, so basically the 1,100 figure minus nothing. That's his whole extra.
That's the sharper answer. Not quite. $1,053.19 for the clothing, plus his stacked K awards every month, plus the equipment grant when he refits his car. The clothing check is the smallest of the three, and it's still over $1,000 he wasn't claiming.
The honest catch here is that the clothing, you're right that it's annual, fair point, and that's the catch. It's not automatic. You refile it every single year. Miss the window and that year's $1,000 is just gone. So the real question isn't whether it's worth it. It's whether you'll remember to claim it 12 months from now.
And there's one rung further up this whole thing, the big one, where a veteran alone can be paid about
$2,000 a month, ballpark, at that level.
Almost double that, $4,900.83 a month at SMC-L for a veteran with no dependents. That's the rung both feet loss of use reaches, and it's a different universe from the base check.
Which raises the only question that actually decides any of this. All that money assumes you qualify. So what is the exact test the VA uses to say your limb is lost when it's still right there? The test is one sentence, and it's stricter than people hope. The VA asks whether any effective function remains that a prosthesis wouldn't serve just as well. That's it. Not is the limb weak. Is there anything left worth keeping over a stump and a device?
And the loss of use test, and I'll be as exact about this as I am about steep times on loose leaf tea, splits the whole world into 2 columns. What counts as lost and what doesn't yet? On the left, it counts. A foot with no push-off, a hand that can't grip, anything a prosthesis would replace evenly. On the right, it doesn't yet. A weak grip that still works, a leg that limps but carries you. Both things are true. Those are real disabilities, and they're not loss of use.
It's the same line, drawn twice. Function a prosthesis beats, that's the whole test. And by the end of it, most denials come down to that single word, function, being missing from the doctor's note.
Right, and this is the piece that trips everyone. Because even if the limb is still attached, if the function is…
Wait, so loss of use doesn't mean you lost the limb at all?
That's exactly the point most people miss. No amputation required. 0 effective function, limb attached, still qualifies. That's why the whole game is documentation, not surgery.
And the chat just pushed the question I was avoiding. Someone asked, "My grip is weak, but it works. Will SMC ever cover me?" The honest answer is, not today, and I won't pretend otherwise. But if it worsens to no effective grip, that day it does.
So the practical move, before you file anything, is to get a VSO to read your file, a veteran service officer. Free, accredited, and they'll spot a qualifying loss you'd walk right past. Do not file this one cold.
And have your doctor write the magic word. Not weak, not limited, but no effective.
No effective function remaining. Word for word, that phrasing.
That's the phrase, thank you. No effective function remaining. That single line in a medical record moves more claims than any argument you'll ever write.
That's the hazard pay line earning its keep, one clean sentence in a chart. Erica, this is the part I always learn from you. You keep dragging it back to the exact words that actually move a file.
Because words are the claim. Both things are true here. The loss is medical, but the proof is a sentence.
Words win it, every time.
Okay, different animal entirely now, the one-time check. Everything so far was monthly or yearly. This one lands once, and it's the biggest single number in the whole episode.
And this is the $27,000 check I flagged at the very top. Remember, I said the same loss unlocks it. Here it is. The automobile allowance, a one-time payment of up to $27,074.99 toward a vehicle. But there's a timing trap on it that costs veterans the whole grant, and I don't want us guessing at the table. So I'm bringing in Curtis Hale. He knows the loss of use and SMC claim process cold, the auto grant included. Let me get him on the line.
Happy to jump in, Jasmine. First thing, because people blur it, folks hear car benefit like it's one thing, it's two. The automobile allowance buys the vehicle. The adaptive equipment grant modifies it. Different grants, different forms.
Welcome, Curtis. Let's go straight at the trap. A veteran finds the perfect adapted van, the price is right today. Why can't they just buy it and get reimbursed?
Because the allowance runs on prior approval. The VA decides you're entitled first, in writing, and then the money goes to the seller. Buy before that decision, and you've skipped the one step the whole grant hangs on. That's how a veteran hands back $27,000 over timing alone.
I want to push on that, Curtis, because that's not how a lot of veterans think it reads. They believe any severe disability qualifies for this grant. That's not what the rule says, is it?
It's not, and you're right to hold the line on it. The auto allowance keys off specific losses, loss or permanent loss of use of a hand or a foot, certain vision loss, severe burns, ALS. A bad back alone, however painful, doesn't open this door. The trigger is the same loss we've been talking about all along.
Curtis, a viewer's going to ask, will my below-knee case qualify me? Straight answer?
I can't speak to any one file. Nobody honest can without reading it. But the pattern with these claims is almost always the same. The loss of use is real. The record just never says it plainly, and the veteran applies after buying instead of before. Fix those two, and the case usually stands up. And that's the piece most people miss.
That's the cleanest way I've heard it put. Get approved first, then shop. I mean, get the loss documented first, then approved, then shop. Both things are true. The money is real, and the order is everything.
Exactly the order. Documentation, approval, purchase. Do it backwards, and the strongest case in the world can still lose the grant.
That's the piece people miss, Curtis, and you said it cleaner than we could. Thank you for jumping on. We'll take it home from here.
Anytime, and thanks for having me on. Tell your veterans one last thing from me. Get it in writing and get it in order. That's the whole game.
So let me total what most veterans are leaving sealed every single year, and I'll show the work. Start with the base monthly check, $139.87. $139.87 times 12 months. Call it $1,700. $1,678.44 a year just from the one base award. Add the clothing allowance, $1,053.19, and the yearly total lands at $2,731.63. Recurring, on top of the rating. And that's before the one-time auto grant or any stacked awards.
So the veteran who files an order collects all of it. That's the version where it works. Now flip it. Picture the one who finds the perfect van and buys it that same afternoon before the letter comes. That veteran can watch $27,000 evaporate over nothing but sequence. Same loss, opposite ending.
Here's the ruling to walk out with. None of this is a favor. It's the rate table, black and white. Every month you wait to claim a loss you already have, the VA simply keeps. So the move is one sentence. Ask them to review every qualifying loss on your record.
One thing you're walking out with, go, quick, Erica.
SMC is separate money for a loss, and loss of use pays exactly like an amputation. Document the words "no effective function remaining."
And the auto grant is up to $27,000, but only if you apply on the 214502 before you buy. Order first, purchase second.
That's the episode, 2 facts, and they're both money the VA won't volunteer.
Next time, the flip side of all this. The review that can quietly lower a rating you already have, and the one line in the letter that tells you it's coming.
That money's been sitting there with your name on it. So tonight, pull your rating decision and find every loss listed on it. If a hand or a foot doesn't work the way it should, that's your phone call to a VSO tomorrow, not a someday.
If this named a benefit you'd never heard, subscribe, because we build this VA library one owed benefit at a time, and hit like so the next veteran finds it. And here's the one we couldn't settle today. Should the VA be required to screen every amputation and loss of use rating for SMC automatically, instead of leaving veterans to find it? Tell us below. This is Jasmine. Say the 3 letters, and claim the loss you already carry. Thanks for watching and signing off.
I will say this for Jasmine. No drift, no filler, no apologies. 9 out of 10. This is Professor Erica. Thanks for watching and signing off.